A list of privileges that P. Diddy is allowed in jail just got released.
Are they going to make him suffer?
Judges denied Sean Diddy Combs' request to delay his trial.
A judge did approve Sean Diddy Combs' request to wear non-prison clothing to his trial.
But then there was another juror that came on the stand, or potential juror, and this juror disclosed the information that they actually work at MDC Brooklyn.
The courtroom went dead silent when prosecutors revealed what they had discovered inside Diddy's alleged private jail rooms. The judge was so disturbed by the photographic evidence that she paused the proceedings to compose herself. What made these rooms especially alarming wasn't just their existence, but what they contained. According to multiple witnesses, these spaces were used to hold individuals against their will. Today, we're breaking down the exact evidence that stunned the courtroom and why legal experts are calling this the most damaging discovery in the case so far.
The biggest privilege he has is a cellmate.
Do we know who this cellmate is?
Yes. The cellmate is a man named Sam Bankman-Fried. He's in federal prison for stealing billions of dollars via his cryptocurrency company called FTX. While they bunk together, they are both separated from Gen Pop.
But then there was another juror that came on the stand, or potential juror, and this juror disclosed the information that they actually work at MDC Brooklyn. Now, the issue with that is Diddy is currently locked up at MDC Brooklyn. He's been housed there since September.
So he could have got paid off. He could have got promised something, anything.
You got inside their conversations.
Exactly. So the issue with that, the obvious issue with that is what you guys just said. But the bigger problem that the judge had, and he took a minute to scold both sides, the prosecutors and Diddy's team, because he's like, y'all got to do better.
How did he get this far?
Yeah, how did he get to the point where he's coming in front of the court and this is being put on record?
Honestly, they are making him suffer.
Poor guy's going to have to shower by himself.
In terms of clothing, he's allowed one tracksuit and one pair of sneakers. So I'm assuming he switches off between his jail suit and his own personal tracksuit.
Okay, I mean, I get it.
He's not allowed any access to TV or radio, but he is allowed to have a copy of the Bible and one book per week.
Oh, okay. This might be good for him.
Yeah, he needs the Bible. He has access to 300 minutes of phone time per week. That translates to an equivalent of 5 hours per week. I feel like that's a lot of phone time.
Wait, that's a good amount.
Yeah, I mean, he has a lot of kids, so maybe they factored that in so he could have adequate time speaking to each child. But
yeah,
he's allowed one visitor each day at a specific time, and visits can only last 1 hour. But there's a specific dress code for visitors. No sunglasses or open-toed shoes, no ripped jeans. Also, if a visitor goes to the bathroom in the middle of their meeting, the visit's over. It's done.
They can't leave after that.
Yeah. So no funny business going on.
Yikes. Use the potty before you meet P. Diddy.
No pun intended. Children under the age of 4 must remain on a visitor's lap at all times.
No one saw it coming that morning. Prosecutors walked into court carrying a sealed manila folder, and the entire room shifted. This wasn't on the schedule. The defense attorneys exchanged nervous glances as the folder was handed directly to the judge. What happened next shocked everyone. Inside were photos and documents about Diddy's jail cell, not just violations of standard rules, but revelations that shattered every protocol for how high-profile inmates are supposed to be housed. This wasn't a typical contraband situation involving a smuggled candy bar or magazine. This was something far more calculated. Court officials discovered that Diddy had constructed a hidden area within his cell, completely undetected during routine inspections. Sources close to the case say he manipulated the layout of standard furnishings, creating a concealed space behind his bed frame that guards routinely overlooked. What they found inside left the judge visibly disturbed. According to court documents, the hidden area contained clear evidence that Diddy was actively attempting to influence witnesses from behind bars. Prosecutors presented photos of what they described as a makeshift command center, complete with contraband phones wrapped in waterproof materials and hidden inside hollowed-out hygiene products. These weren't ordinary phones, they were specialized devices designed to evade jail security systems. But the most damaging piece of evidence was a set of handwritten notes. The notes listed potential witnesses, some names marked with stars, others annotated with specific instructions on what they should say if questioned. One particularly alarming note read, "Make sure, name redacted, understands what happens if the story changes." Another outlined specific lines a witness was expected to repeat in testimony. Guards who discovered the hidden space also reported luxury items that no inmate should have access to, designer clothes hidden under standard-issue uniforms, and restricted food items tucked away in storage bins. Yet it wasn't the luxury items that rattled court officials, it was the clear and organized evidence of witness tampering. The judge called a 15-minute recess after reviewing the materials. Observers noted that his face had gone pale. When court resumed, his tone toward Diddy's defense team had shifted, he was visibly more severe. What shocked him most was the detailed communication system prosecutors uncovered, lists of witnesses paired with specific intimidation tactics. Some notes even included private information about witnesses' families, details Diddy should not have been able to access from inside a jail. This wasn't random, it showed a coordinated attempt to pressure individuals into silence or into changing their statements. But the hidden communication network was just the beginning. The next revelation from the prosecution was even more disturbing: how Diddy had allegedly transformed his standard jail cell into something that barely resembled a prison at all. Photos revealed a level of customization and unauthorized privilege that raised serious questions, not just about Diddy, but about who may have helped him on the inside.
Judges ruled that he would be a threat to intimidate witnesses and victims if released. The 17-page indictment against Combs accuses him of using employees of his business endeavors, including record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcoholic spirits company, a marketing agency, a media company, and television network to facilitate his crimes through acts that included kidnapping, arson, and bribery. If convicted on all charges, which include racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transporting people across state lines to engage in prostitution, Combs faces a possible sentence of decades in prison.
Sean Diddy Combs entered the courtroom in tan prison clothing and hugged an attorney. His mother and one of his sons were there, as well as a man wearing a Free Puff shirt. The judge denied the defense's motion to delay the trial by 2 months. The defense also wanted what the judge called an entire universe of documents related to one of the alleged victims who used to work for Combs. At a hearing Monday, the defense accused prosecutors of cherry-picking emails and chats related to this person, and the defense wanted all of their emails. The government said it didn't have access to all of this person's work emails, likely 200,000 of them. The judge denied the defense's request and told them they needed to point to specific items they believed weren't turned over. The judge also ruled one of the alleged victims will have to turn over drafts of their memoir, but they won't have to turn over financial documents the defense also requested.
Person questioning of prospective jurors began earlier this morning. The judge overseeing this case plans on bringing in at least 50 prospective jurors every day until a jury of 12 people and 6 alternates is formed. Even though dozens of men and women have filed civil lawsuits against Sean Diddy Combs, this criminal trial is focused on the accusations of 4 people, including his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura.
The hidden communication system wasn't even the most shocking part. When guards conducted a surprise inspection of Diddy's cell, they reportedly couldn't believe what they were seeing. Most inmates get a metal bed, a small desk, and the bare essentials. But Diddy? He was living in what one guard described as a 5-star accommodation. The prosecution presented photos of his cell that left the courtroom gasping. While regular inmates sleep on thin mattresses under scratchy blankets, Diddy had somehow acquired a full memory foam bedding setup, complete with Egyptian cotton sheets. We're talking luxury linens worth more than what many prison staff earn in a week. He had transformed his cell into a space that looked nothing like a prison. Court documents revealed an entire wardrobe of high-end designer clothing, not just 1 or 2 items. Balenciaga slippers, custom silk pajamas, and tailored outfits matching his court appearances were all folded neatly into storage compartments modified to function as closets. One guard testified that Diddy never once wore the standard-issue prison uniform while in his private cell. The luxury didn't stop there. His toiletries included high-end skincare products, designer cologne, and grooming tools, many of which are strictly prohibited and cost hundreds of dollars each. While most inmates use institutional soap, Diddy maintained his celebrity skincare routine without interruption. Then came the food. Guards discovered hidden stashes of premium snacks, protein bars, and even prepared meals smuggled past security. One testified about finding fresh fruit and imported coffee not available to any other inmate. His cell had essentially become a private suite outfitted with dozens of items that blatantly violated facility regulations. But what truly alarmed prison officials wasn't just what was inside the cell, it was how it got there. Prosecutors revealed that at least 7 prison staff members are now under investigation for accepting bribes. Surveillance footage showed guards hand-delivering packages directly to Diddy's cell without undergoing any inspection. Other staff members had falsified inventory records to cover up contraband. The money trail made it even worse. Financial records presented in court revealed over $50,000 in questionable payments to prison employees, disguised as consulting fees or personal loans, all coinciding with the dates of specific deliveries. One guard allegedly received $5,000 to bring in Diddy's designer mattress after hours. This wasn't a few small items slipping through. It was a full-scale bribery operation that turned a standard jail cell into a luxury suite. The prosecution laid out how Diddy had built a network of staff willing to bend the rules for the right price. Yet even all of this turned out to be just the beginning. When investigators began carefully inspecting his belongings, those designer clothes, hidden food items, and personal effects, they found something far more alarming. The actual tools Diddy was allegedly using to run his empire from behind bars and, worse, intimidate or manipulate witnesses tied to his ongoing legal cases.
Yeah, Stephanie, I think the defense is going to look for people who are open to non-traditional lifestyles, who can receive evidence of what defense will sort of style as sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and not get put off and not rush to judgment. On the flip side, the prosecution is going to be looking for folks who are not going to be distracted by, the new shiny object over here, who are not going to get off course by any kind of circus the Diddy team may try to bring into this trial.
So, this has garnered much media attention. How does that factor in when it comes to selecting a jury? Because no doubt most people have heard of what is going on.
Totally. So it presents a significant problem. Here's the thing. The judge wants to find jurors who are fair and impartial and who have not already developed an opinion as to Diddy's guilt or innocence. Well, that's hard when every media outlet in the world has covered this case. They've likely already heard about it. And so what the judge is going to have to do is determine how much exposure the potential jurors have had to this Diddy saga and whether they can put that aside and simply base their verdict on what happens inside that courtroom and not everything that has gone on preceding that.
When most inmates get locked up, their outside lives come to a screeching halt. Their businesses suffer, assets freeze, and they lose control of nearly everything. But Diddy? He's been running his empire like he never even left his mansion. The courtroom was stunned when prosecutors revealed exactly how Diddy was pulling it off. The judge could barely believe the evidence. A sophisticated, covert communication network operating entirely from inside his jail cell. This wasn't just a single smuggled phone, it was a full-blown tech hub, hidden in plain sight. Guards discovered 5 unauthorized phones and 3 tablets, each carefully stashed in places designed to evade routine inspections. One phone was hidden inside a hollowed-out Bible. Another was embedded in a carved-out chess piece. Diddy had transformed ordinary objects into covert communication devices, all part of an elaborate system designed to bypass prison security, but the devices themselves were only half the story. What shocked the court most was what was on them. Investigators recovered thousands of messages exchanged between Diddy and his business associates. These weren't casual updates. They were detailed communications about company operations, investment strategies, and brand launches. One thread outlined instructions for a multi-million-dollar vodka deal. Another contained Diddy's edits to a fashion campaign for his clothing line. He was reviewing materials, demanding changes, and giving direct orders from inside a jail cell. Financial records introduced by prosecutors confirmed the scale of what was happening. Over $35 million in transactions authorized by Diddy while incarcerated. He approved deals, restructured companies, sold property, and launched new product lines. 17 major business decisions in total, all made from behind bars. The devices used specialized encrypted messaging apps designed to slip past prison firewalls. One app automatically deleted messages once they were read. Another cleverly disguised business conversations as religious discussions, making them appear harmless to anyone checking the phones. This wasn't about a celebrity seeking comfort. This was a calculated operation to maintain control. Even Diddy's legally protected attorney-client privilege was used as a loophole. Court documents showed he regularly scheduled conference calls under the guise of legal meetings. In reality, these were business strategy sessions, with his attorney present only to keep them shielded from monitoring, and one particularly damning recording played in court. Diddy can be heard discussing profit margins and staffing changes while his lawyer sits silently nearby. Technically, it was a legal consultation. Practically, it was a corporate board meeting, but even more alarming than his financial control was what investigators found buried deeper in the message logs. Amid the business talks and luxury item requests were direct communications regarding the witnesses set to testify against him. These weren't just updates, they included tactics for influencing or undermining testimony. The prosecution made it clear, Diddy wasn't just protecting his empire, he was actively working to sabotage the legal case against him. For court officials who had seen it all, this was next-level manipulation. It wasn't just about maintaining wealth. It was about preserving power at any cost.
He's also going to allow in outtakes from a documentary called The Fall of Diddy, of potential witnesses in this case. And then a lot of today's discussion today, Lindsay, was about victim anonymity. There are 3 alleged victims who the government wants to testify, and they want them to testify under pseudonyms. The defense has agreed about one of them, known as victim number 2, but the 2 others, they want their names revealed in court. So the judge has now said that those 3 victims will testify anonymously. The other thing that they discussed for quite a while was expert testimony. There are experts that the government and defense want to bring in to speak to what can happen when a victim has allegedly been sexually abused. And the judge thought the key point was that you can't infer just because someone stayed in a relationship or didn't talk about abuse sooner.
If you think jail visitation means sitting across a glass panel talking through a phone, think again. In Diddy's case, the visitor log looked more like a VIP guest list for a private industry event than a prison schedule. When prosecutors unveiled the records in court, the room collectively gasped. They didn't just bring a folder, they brought stacks of logs. Each one listed unauthorized visitors who had somehow gained access to Diddy without passing through the usual security checks. And these weren't distant cousins or longtime friends. They were A-list celebrities, music executives, and high-powered business partners, all moving in and out like they were visiting a luxury suite, not a maximum security inmate. The prosecution revealed at least 6 major music artists, 3 film producers, and multiple business associates had visited Diddy, all without proper clearance. Even more disturbing, several of these visitors had direct ties to witnesses in the ongoing federal investigation. One visitor had previously dated a key witness. Another was the current business partner of someone preparing to testify against Diddy. Security footage showed these guests being led into private, unmonitored rooms, usually reserved for attorney-client meetings. Meanwhile, ordinary inmates were stuck in overcrowded visitation rooms under constant supervision. Diddy was holding private strategy sessions with influential outsiders, totally off the books. And how did they get away with it? Prison staff had been falsifying records. Famous rappers were listed as cousins. Music producers were marked down as legal consultants, despite having no law degrees and no official involvement in the case. Investigators discovered blatant forgeries designed to slip these visitors past security protocol. The kicker? Several staff members eventually cracked under questioning. One guard admitted receiving $2,000 per visit to escort VIPs through back entrances and update the logbooks with fake information. Another confessed to clearing entire sections of the facility to give Diddy privacy with his guests, but these weren't just friendly drop-ins. They were operational meetings. Prosecutors presented compelling evidence that these visitors acted as messengers, delivering and receiving instructions as part of Diddy's wider communication network. Some visitors would leave and immediately contact witnesses connected to the case. One visitor made 5 phone calls to a key witness within hours of leaving the facility. Phone records, testimony, and surveillance footage all painted the same picture. This was a coordinated effort to bypass jail restrictions and influence the outside world. Instead of being isolated like a normal inmate, Diddy had created a direct line to the people who could affect his case, thanks to bribed prison staff and a revolving door of celebrity messengers. So who exactly was on this list? Court documents named multiple top-tier music industry executives, at least 2 famous recording artists, several business partners falsely listed as lawyers. Every one of these meetings was arranged through illegal payments to staffers who were willing to bend or break the rules for cash. But the biggest shock wasn't just who visited. It was what Diddy had written down about those meetings, handwritten notes seized from his cell, detailed talking points for each visitor, coded messages to pass along, and instructions on what to say, or what not to say, if approached by investigators. Some entries even mentioned the desired reaction from the people they were supposed to contact. It wasn't just shady, it was strategic, calculated, and criminal. Those notes didn't just change the perception of Diddy's time behind bars, they completely transformed the case. The judge's tone changed. The defense scrambled. And legal experts said the entire narrative had shifted from a business dispute to what looked increasingly like witness tampering, obstruction, and criminal enterprise activity operating from within a jail cell.
The judge denied this immediately when we got into court today. What he said to Combs' attorneys is, for one, this request came very last minute. This trial is supposed to start in weeks. We're supposed to begin jury selection soon, and that he thinks that they have sufficient time to prepare. He even made the point, Lindsay, that it's unclear to him why Combs can't prepare when he has 4 different law firms working on his case. A few other things that the judge said today is he's going to allow in drafts of a memoir that was written by one of the victims. However, the defense had also wanted her diaries and bank statements. The judge is not going to allow that.
When guards conducted a surprise inspection, they found something that would change everything about Diddy's case. Hidden between the mattress and bed frame, a black leather notebook was found, one that didn't look like standard prison-issued material. When officers opened it, they immediately realized they had uncovered critical evidence. This wasn't just a journal. It was a blueprint for intimidation that could alter the course of the trial. The notebook contained handwritten pages with direct threats aimed at people planning to testify. These weren't vague or abstract threats. They were specific, detailed, and chilling. One page listed a female witness, noting her daily schedule, the school her children attended, and the time she usually arrived home. Next to this personal information were the words, "She needs to understand what's at stake here." Another page outlined what would happen if certain witnesses didn't change their testimonies. If, name redacted, takes the stand, remind him about that situation in Miami. He knows what happens to people who talk. There were also lists of witnesses, some marked with check marks, others with question marks, as if tracking who could be manipulated and who might still testify. This wasn't just casual note-taking, it was a coordinated effort to influence and intimidate key witnesses. What really disturbed prosecutors was the level of access Diddy had to private information. These were details no one behind bars should have had: addresses, phone numbers, and even license plate numbers of witnesses' family members, personal information about the families of witnesses, names of siblings, partners, even where they worked. Instructions to associates about how to approach witnesses before court dates. Don't call directly, one note advised. Visit in person at the gym on Tuesday. Remind them of the NDA and what happens if it's broken. One particularly harrowing note even mentioned a witness's daughter, by name, including details of her school and after-school activities. The chilling question beside it was, is this enough to make sure the witness stays quiet? Security experts testified that gathering this level of detail would require an organized network of people actively surveilling these individuals. The prosecution argued that these notes proved Diddy was orchestrating a campaign of witness intimidation right from his prison cell. It wasn't just contraband, it was evidence of active obstruction of justice. When the judge saw these documents, the entire tone of the case shifted. The discovery of these threatening messages immediately led to Diddy being moved to a special housing unit with 24-hour surveillance, all his privileges revoked, no more visitors except his legal team, no more private phone calls, and no more luxury items. The prosecution filed additional charges for witness tampering and obstruction of justice, charges that could add decades to his sentence if convicted. The hidden communication system and these threatening messages didn't just change Diddy's confinement conditions. They transformed the case itself, escalating it from allegations about personal conduct to accusations of running a criminal operation from behind bars. What started as a standard celebrity case has now turned into something far more serious. In the wake of the discovery, legal experts are now calling this one of the most closely watched cases in recent memory. The hidden network of influence Diddy maintained from within the prison walls has completely changed the landscape of the trial.